Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and today we are at Faith in Motion Dance Studio. I came up with this awesome idea to introduce Joyce Henderson. She is my personal dance instructor, friend, and you guys know that I'm a mental health counselor, and I do a lot of work with relationships. So I thought that it would be a pretty cool idea for us to juxtapose what would dancing, relationship-wise, right? What would dancing and like actual relationships look like? So I figured that I can give that perspective in terms of how it is that I help clients when they come to me with relational issues, and what Joyce experiences when she's actually working with couples on the dance floor. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to have Joyce introduce herself with all the things that she's done. So that way we can all get to know Joyce as well. So Joyce, you got the floor.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, first of all.
Absolutely.
This is a great idea. When you and I were kind of chatting about it, I think it's perfect for this kind of correlation to happen. So my name is Joyce Henderson. I have been in this community for over 30 years.
Wow.
Over 30 years. So my dance studio came to fruition really about 10 years ago, but I had been planning it almost 20 years ago.
Nice.
Been instructing for about 25 years. When we opened a dance studio about 10 years ago, it was all in. You know, I walked away from a corporate career to do this because it was my passion. And it's been a whirlwind ever since. A great experience for a lot of different reasons. Awesome. We call it Faith in Motion because it really took a lot for me to walk away from a big career and you know, to do something that I know I had to do and I wanted to do. And it's been a great ride. It's been a great ride. It still is. So.
And she survived the pandemic, guys, because she's been around. She survived the pandemic. That's a huge piece of the puzzle.
It was gigantic.
Yeah, no question. Resiliency. That's what we're all about. Resiliency.
It's true. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Don't quit.
Awesome. Yep. So what I wanted to share was, so you do know that I work with a lot of couples, and a lot of times I talk about three things that we have to focus on in a relationship. The first one is friendship. The second one is how people manage conflicts. And then the third one is how people create what's called shared meaning. So no specific order, but I figure we can start with just talking about friendship. Okay. So when I talk to couples about friendship, I usually say we want to look at three areas: how people get to know each other, how people emotionally connect with each other, and then in order to make that connection happen, they have to make a bid for connection, right? Okay. Yeah. So a lot of times when I think about what we're doing here at Faith in Motion, when you think about couples relating to each other and connecting and building a friendship, like, what does that look like for you as an instructor? What does that look like for people that are learning how to dance?
Good question. Great question. Actually, when they come in, most of my couples that come in, they come in and this is the common theme. We want to do something together. That's the biggest thing I get when couples come in and want to do a dance class. It's usually one person idea, and the other person is kind of coming along with it. Right. But needless to say, it's a common goal that they want to do something together. They have different lives, you know, people have different careers in a relationship. So it's one of those things, like, we need to find something that we can do together. And that goes to your point of building friendship. It's not even so much about the dance steps when they come in. Yes. They want to do something together. Awesome. So that's kind of how the friendship part of this kind of starts. Yeah, absolutely. We want to get to know each other in different perspectives. And it's a great journey, and I get to see that journey from the beginning as I'm teaching them. And sometimes you discover they don't know each other like they think they know each other in that initial class. You know, it's like, oh, I didn't know you were this good. You know? I love it. Oh, I didn't know that you had that. So it's a great thing to see as it blossoms. You know? And then, like, so I've been with Joyce now for, I think, just about a year, right? Christine and I, we've been coming here for about a year. So we've seen, we didn't come here completely new, but we've seen people that come here completely new, not knowing any dance steps. Right. And one of the things that I really love to see is the vulnerability that they have when neither one of them kind of know, like, what direction we're going. And it doesn't matter what dance form it is. So I really like salsa, but Joyce teaches salsa,
tango, foxtrot, East Coast swing, West Coast swing, ballroom,
cha-cha, I teach a bunch of different genres, and it's great because you never know with these couples, they don't even know what they really, really want until I start to introduce them to different things.
Yes.
So, and that's, sometimes they come in with one dance in mind, but then they discover that they like other things.
Awesome.
Together. So
and it's all about connection,
sure.
right? A lot of this friendship system stuff is all about really building connection,
right? Yeah.
So I love, I guess that would be a perfect segue for us to talk about what's called the shared meaning system. So when I work with couples in the shared meaning system, we talk about three things. We talk about roles, we talk about goals, and then we talk about symbols. And symbols are like, what does a home mean to you symbolically, right? Or in this case, what would the dance mean to you symbolically, right? Roles in terms of I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a husband, and how it is that they see those. Some people take those very traditionally, and then other people just, go in different directions with it, but as long as the roles are clearly defined, right?
Sure.
And then the last one is our goals, right? So like there's financial goals, there's spiritual goals, right? And we have to kind of put those together in terms of, how do I help support your dreams? How do you help support my dreams? And then when we come together as a partnership, how do we present ourselves to the world? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
right?
Perfect sense, yeah.
So now, what does that look like on the dance floor?
That looks very, you're going to hear a lot of similarities with this because roles especially.
Yes.
There are two roles on the dance floor. There's a leader and a follower.
Okay.
Neither one is more important than the other. I really emphasize that when I do teach. It's like every role is important, equally important. So just as long as you define it.
So here's a crazy question. I know it sounds so rudimentary, but how would you define a leader's role? I mean, just to say, well, your role is to lead, and your role is to follow, right? So how do you define a leader and a follower's role? I'm learning, guys. I'm learning.
The definition, and this is so important. The leader has to make, at least in dancing, and you could probably tell me more on your end, they have to make the initial move. And the follower has to have a sense of, let him make that move so I can actually know where we're going, right? If they're both initiating a move, you have a follower and a leader and they go like this, then there's no dancing. But if the leader goes like this, then she comes. If he goes like this, then she goes, right? So it's all about waiting for that initial step. And I really emphasize that to my followers. It's like, let them make the initiation of the step.
Yes.
That way it's very clear. And they have to, and the leader has an important part, really the most important part.
Has a lot.
Is to make sure you have a clear signal.
Yes.
When you initiate the step, right? Because otherwise you're going to go sideways with this thing and she's going to go with you.
Yes.
So
yes.
You really want to make sure that you give a clear signal as a leader, and she has to make sure that she waits for that initiation of the step.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is a perfect segue again because we spoke about the friendship system and building friendship, and we spoke about the shared meaning system and how it is that people connect, right? But of course, in just like any relationship, you have conflicts, right? You have people that have to manage conflicts. So one of the things that you're sharing is very reminiscent of when I'm working with couples, and there's mixed communication, right? So sometimes it does have to do with who's leading, who's following, who's playing what role and when, what's the goal here, right? So it's like all this stuff gets jumbled up, right? So let's talk about managing conflicts on the dance floor. You mentioned communication a couple times and leading and being clear. How about we expound on that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. If you know the game Tug of War.
Yes.
Where it's like pulling apart and it's like a lot of tension in between.
Yes.
I often use that analogy in dancing. There has to be a leader and a follower. Everyone has to know their role.
Yes.
But if you don't let them make the initial step, it becomes a tug of war. And now you're not dancing, you're actually struggling. And it becomes less enjoyable to dance. And I always tell the followers, it's like, let them make the initiation step, because then you won't have any conflict. everyone knows where they have to go if you just let them make the initial step, and there's no tug of war. So I like this little saying I saw. Salsa is it's a dance and not a fight.
Nice.
Dance and not a fight, because you want to dance and not have to have this pull and tug.
Right.
So yeah.
So, and I can say that definitely, like, even like going back to the whole leader follower thing, you know, so when I dance as a leader, it takes a tremendous amount of, I don't want to say a tremendous amount, but like eventually you get enough confidence to be able to do the moves that you want. But then being able to take, like, so if you practice being able to take risks, to kind of make the dance a journey, a little bit more adventurous, right? And when I hear this idea of like, I almost have to have like a plan of what direction I'm going to take this in. And if I'm not very clear, or if I'm, let's say, think about one step at the same time that I'm thinking about another step, and all of a sudden I cross my own feet. Right? So I, for myself, have to be not only like very clear on what I'm going to do, I have to execute that with confidence. And I get told all the time, so you do this great thing where you make us line up, right? Tell them about it, right?
Okay,
Tell them about it.
Where the follower is on one side and the
and then you have us doing that thing.
The rotation.
Yes.
Rotation, yes. What I do in class, and this is something that's been traditionally taught in where I was grown up in Arthur Mary, the leaders line up on one side of the room.
Right.
The followers on the other side of the room. So when you get together and you do the step, I said, do the step, and I teach you the lead and follow part.
Yes.
Then I said, okay, rotate. Because if you're with the same partner and you're doing the step incorrectly, or you're not knowing how to communicate to that person, it becomes just a struggle.
Right.
So then you go to the next partner, which is in the next line down.
Right.
And then you try to step again. And it repeats. We continue to do the rotation until you get through all of the partners that are there, all the people that are there, in the follower position.
Yes.
By the time you get back to your partner, you have tweaked what you have unclear. The unclear communication, it has been tweaked with the other people in the class. So by the time you get back to your original partner, now she understands you a little bit better. So it's one of those things. It's a great technique to use, because if you're with the same person and you're doing the same thing wrong all the time, and you don't get a different perspective.
Yes.
That's what it is, a different perspective of what you're doing, then it becomes a little confusing and they may not understand it. So I like the term perspective, because sometimes you have to understand the perspective of what they're receiving.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that makes it a little better if you start to tweak it and you understand where you're going wrong.
Absolutely. So in our world, as therapists, a lot of times when we're trying to help people manage conflict, one of the things that we'll talk about is seek first to understand and then be understood, right? That's like, that's nothing new, right? And the idea here is that a lot of people wrestle with trying to get their perspective off before they really understand where the other person's coming from. And then that creates a tension, because they're fighting about fighting. They're not really trying to understand like where this is going. So when you do this for us, me personally as a leader, one of the things that I get to experience is the communication that I'm also getting from the followers, right? So some followers have like spaghetti arms. Some followers have like what we call T-Rex arms. And it's like sometimes I have to go get you instead of you kind of supporting me in this process. And I think we'll be able to demonstrate some of this stuff later on. But every follower with a different leader gets to see the confidence level and how they communicate. And then every follower, as they go through every leader, as they go through every follower, gets to see the communication feedback that they're getting. So they're constantly like in this loop. And you're learning and tweaking every single time you go around.
That makes it huge. It's a huge part of the learning process, is to begin to do those tweaks that you need to make. So by the time you get back to your partner, now you're dancing, because you have a better understanding of what you need to do to be clear to them.
Absolutely. So I've thought of the only two things that I can probably bring back in here, which is something that I do talk about with my couples, is trust and commitment.
Yeah, sure,
right?
sure.
So what do you got?
Trust and commitment. It's funny you say that. If I had a nickel for every time I say trust your partner,
Okay, all right.
I would probably be
Okay.
well off. But it's one of those things. It's like the leader has a position
Yes.
that they're going to have to eventually say, I'm just going to be the follower. I should say the follower has a position. I'm just going to be the follower, and I'm going to trust that this person's going to lead me in the right direction. And that takes a lot of relinquish of control.
Sure.
But not in a bad way. Not in a bad
Right.
way. It's like, all right, I know that they're doing their part as a leader to learn how to
Right.
communicate to
Right.
me,
Right.
so that I am going to be a little more trustful
Right.
when they lead me in this dance.
Yep.
So trust is a big part of it. It's like you're going to have to eventually relinquish your control and trust that leader has tweaked enough the process so he knows how to lead you across the dance floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was the other one?
Commitment.
Commitment. Yes.
Yes.
Commitment is interesting because one of the things in dancing is that, and you touched on it, you have to have the confidence
Yes.
of doing what you're doing on the dance floor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's built over time. Like everybody that comes in here, most of the time they don't know how to dance.
Right.
They don't have a background of it. So it takes time to build that confidence. So once you build that confidence, then you're going to be committed to making sure that you do all the things. And I love when couples come in and they're brand new to dancing. And then after a while, whether it's a few weeks or a few months, you can see the confidence rise in them. And they want to do well.
Yes.
And they're committed to doing well.
Yes.
And let me know more. Let me
Right.
learn more about this so that I can do more with my partner.
Right.
And that's a
Everybody starts
beautiful
off as a beginner.
Yes,
right?
yes,
So it's like
yes.
everybody starts off as a
Yeah,
beginner. It's
yeah.
like that's the way it works.
thing. And their level of commitment grows as their
Yes.
confidence grows.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna change. I'm gonna rotate this a little bit because the first thing that we did was to try and talk about like relationships from like a mental health perspective, and then we're talking relationships from like what if we juxtapose that, like the metaphor for the relationship would be like dance, right?
Yeah.
But I also like to espouse like a biopsychosocial spiritual perspective or a lens where I'm looking at mental health, and I keep on saying mental health is not just about mental health. It's about physical health, it's about social health, it's about spiritual health, right?
Right.
And I think that dancing is, I think that a dance instructor is, to some degree also a therapist. So I'm going to ask, right? Like, do you feel that, so number one, do you think that dance is a great way to build mental health? And number two, it's a two-part question, right? Can you share your thoughts on like have you seen transformation in people through dance?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. People come in. Sometimes they've come in and they say, "I'm really shy." I get that a lot. I'm really shy. I've never done this before, but I've always wanted to do it.
Nice.
So when you're teaching them, you're also building their mental psyche to be confident in this.
Yes.
And you talk them through it, and you inspire them. I love to inspire them. You're doing, and most of the time, if you're trying, there's more than enough reason to inspire people. It's like, you're doing a great job. You got that step, and we're gonna just keep building. You can do it. I'm a cheerleader
Right.
after a while.
Yep.
So then you see over time, there's that shyness that they came in starts to kind of fade. Starts to fade away. We have what we call dance socials. We do them once a month.
Yes.
I have seen so many of my students in class that were a little introverted, and after a few weeks, after a few months, they'll go to a social. They may not dance the first time until a few weeks, a few months later, they're dancing every single dance.
Nice.
So it's that confidence builder, and you're one of the, I guess, their mentor and their confidant, and they become kind of like your family because you're building their confidence, you're building their trust, and that's what they're looking for when they come in here. Many times they're not looking for a dance.
Absolutely.
They're looking to have a little more confidence in themselves. As a couple, definitely. And you see them like kind of doing all these different dances together where they came in maybe just to do one thing. But now they're doing 5 or 6 things.
Yes.
And you see them with such confidence on the floor. And they're looking to me as an instructor to build that in them. And that's a reward that I get.
And just to clarify for everybody, when she says like 5 or 6 things, it's not like they're doing every song and it's salsa. It's like salsa, cha-cha, rumba. You know, it's like all these different genres. So it's not like, for the ones that come in here, a lot of times, you know, they may be coming in because they want to learn like one specific dance.
Yeah.
But then when they see the camaraderie, when they see, so this is what I talk about like in terms of like social health.
Right.
We are social creatures, and to be alone is just not healthy for us.
Right.
So when we start connecting with other people, especially in this genre, you're touching, you're within proximity, the music is very vibrant, and I mean, even if it's a waltz, you're still connecting.
Sure.
You're still doing this in the context of socialization, right? And especially after you know, like what we just experienced over those 2 years through the pandemic. You know, there's so much emotional tension that was built up just because we had to be secluded from other people.
Right.
So, so bio, psycho, social, spiritual, it is a workout.
It is. And you know how many people, and you know, because you're in my classes.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Yes, absolutely.
After class, and that's my goal. I want to get the most out of you.
That's right.
So it's my goal. It's like then I've done my job.
Yes.
I've done my job.
Yes.
And you see them talking to one another, like your point about socialization.
Yes.
You see them talking, and these people don't know each other coming in. They learn to as we're dancing and doing classes to communicate in different ways.
That's right.
So after a while, the camaraderie begins to build in that, not just in the couples, but in the class itself. Because we are social creatures.
Yes.
We are meant to
Yes.
communicate with other people. And dance is a great way of doing that.
Yeah,
Huge way of doing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So psycho is both so psychological and emotional health, and the idea here is that we're learning, right? So we're constantly learning. If you think about so for instance, in the leader's role, for instance, if I'm talking about myself as a leader for a second and I say, not only am I learning new steps, I'm also learning what direction that I want to go in, and I have to think about that and execute that at the same time that I'm connecting with the song, expressing the song, reading my partner.
Right.
Like we're doing all that, and that's a tremendous amount of flexibility psychologically speaking, right? So we already hit on the fact that it's great exercise. Psychologically and emotionally, it affords people to use parts of their brain that they wouldn't, because you know, as many times as I've heard people talk about 2 left feet, it's like this gets the right side of your brain and the left side of your brain working together in sync, because your arms are doing one thing at the same time that your legs are doing something different.
I know.
So it becomes like this whole coordinated thing.
Yeah.
And when I talk about spiritual health, just so that we can be very clear, I'm not really talking about like spiritual in the sense of religion. I'm talking spiritual in the sense of values.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So like when we talk about like spiritual health, it's like, why is this important to you? What does this mean? And it can kind of go back to the whole idea of like, so roles, goals, and symbols. Like, what does this symbolize, you know, for you? So like, what does the dance symbolize for you?
Yeah. Great question. One of the things that I get very rewarded when I hear my students say, I need this. It's not so much for the dance. I need this to feel joy.
Yes.
Yeah, and they feel so much joy at the end of the day. I need this because this is my digression from a very busy day at work, you know. So when you're talking about that spiritual aspect, and I understand what you're saying, I love when, this is another example, is like when couples say, this was so much fun.
Yes.
This was so much fun. And you can see the joy in them. So dance brings out not just the physical aspect of it, and not just, like you said, the actual learning of the dancing. It actually satisfies their soul, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
Which is great, and it's kind of an added thing, you know, to this whole thing called dance. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. I like the fact that you touched on a little bit, and I'll expound on it from a dance perspective.
Sure.
Is that when you are learning dance and you want to communicate to the person, but you do have, especially as a leader, you have a lot of responsibility, right? You have this responsibility of knowing the step, knowing the timing of the music, communicating well so they can lead, that they can be led. But what happens is you can see the confidence in the things that they couldn't do. This is where we're really good to, or they think they couldn't do.
Right.
And you bring that out in them. They're doing things that they had no idea what they were capable of.
Right.
And the follower actually appreciates it.
Yes.
So it's just like that connection that they have together at the end of the day makes it so beautiful to watch. You know, because now you have a leader that can do all kind of things that they had no idea they could do. And you have a follower that has such an appreciation of the things that they're doing for them. So.
And it's a complete learning process. So like, even as you're sharing that, if I bring it back to whether I'm working with couples in relationship that are trying to connect with each other, you know, not a lot of couples that I work with have had great role models of how to manage conflicts, right? And all of a sudden, I'll give them a model for how to do that, and it seems very strange in the beginning because it's almost like, what do you mean I have to do 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7? Like, what is that? What is this crazy thing you're having me do?
Right.
The way that you have me counting my steps, and it feels odd. And then they realize that, you know, for the first time they were able to not only start a conversation, not be critical, not be defensive, but they were also able to actually manage that circumstance to the point where and I guess this was the goal, that after you finish managing your conflicts, you still feel like the other person is someone that you love,
right?
versus someone you want to choke.
Well, I guess that's part of my point. I guess at the end of the day, as long as everyone knows their roles and they're willing to do their roles, and you get this perfect combination of dancing, and sometimes, you know, you can go from 2 steps to 20 steps. And I like to call the steps out in different random orders when I teach them, so that the leader has to really kind of think about what they want to do. And when you see that all come together and they do it well and the follower really appreciates it, then there is no choking them. It's like, oh, this is fun. This is great. It's like, what's next? You know, kind of thing. Yeah. So, it's really rewarding.
Perfect metaphor, perfect interventions. It's like, I love it. It's just, I feel like it's the same thing that I do, except that, you know, you're the therapist on the dance floor, right? And
you do get some, like, as they're growing in this thing, you do get some learning curve, right?
Sure,
There's some learning curve. Like the follower especially, she has to learn not to anticipate what the leader is going to do. I always say that. Try not to anticipate, because then they jump out, right? And it's usually abrupt, and it's usually you're throwing them off track, and so it's like, try not to anticipate. That goes back to my point. It's like, let them make the initial move.
Right. Exactly.
Don't anticipate, and that takes a lot for people to learn.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
You're automatically thinking, I know what they're going to do, and 99% of the time, you don't know what they're going to do.
That is correct. That is correct.
So, yeah.
So, Joyce, I want to thank you for being a guest and really sharing your heart on everything that we're talking about. I think that everybody out there is really going to enjoy, hopefully they enjoy all the information that we're kind of sharing. And I want people to know who you are, and I want this place to be like packed with students. So tell people how they can get a hold of you, where they can find you. We'll have all your stuff posted down in the description below.
Okay, awesome. Well, we are located at 670 Route 211 East in Middletown, New York. Yep. 10941. Our social media sites, they're all kind of one name. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on my website, obviously. So Dance with Joyce at FIM. If you look that up on Facebook and or Instagram and or my website, you can see all of the information. We have our class schedules out there. We have our events out there, because we're involved in a lot of events. So we're very busy. We're very active. So yeah, that's kind of how you can kind of get hold of us. Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. So guys, do me a favor. We're going to post all that stuff in the comment section below. If you guys have any comments or anything that you want to ask Joyce or myself, or if you like this kind of content, please leave your comments down below. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button and the bell, the notifications, and all that good stuff, so that you don't miss any of our videos. and we will catch you guys on the next one.